Perfect.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to Hoodoo Lounge Paranormal News. I am your host, Dedrick Hilton. We have an amazing show for everyone tonight. I mean, guys, look, we bringing that fresh live content to you, and you do not want to miss this. The topic that we have to talk about is some major eye-opening topics. I hope everyone's doing well on this amazing Monday night. I mean, what great way to start off your Monday by watching some paranormal news. So let's get right on into it. Moving right along, guys. I said we have an interesting show tonight. I got a guest I'm getting ready to bring on real soon. But before I bring them on, I'm going to put up a topic. The reason why I'm going to bring them on. So, researchers has shown, and this is interesting, research has shown, NASA researchers, 4 hostile alien civilizations may be lurking in the Milky Way. That's right. 4 hostile, 4 hostile, that's right. I want y'all to notice here. Alien civilization may be lurking in the Milky Way. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is going to lead into our guest. Because right now, you have the government creating the Space Force. For those you don't know, there's a whole new branch of the military that has been developed. It's called Space Force. And interestingly, the people that run it, the soldiers, like how I'm a veteran myself, they call us Army soldiers or whatever, Marine is called this, and Navy soldiers call that. They're called Guardians. That's what they call. And this is a real branch. You can look them up. As you know, in May, the government have released a live study that was done on camera about the possibility of UFOs existing. And during that study, that they actually stated that these UAPs are not part of the United States, and they're not Russia, and they're not China. So that opens up the possibility that there's other life form, which they did not deny. They actually basically came out and said that, hey, you know, we're not alone. Right, and I absolutely agree. But the researcher and people working with NASA, they said possibility 4. So that means they're still up in their communication level. This is just the beginning, which actually is not the beginning. It's just them. It's the beginning of them sharing this information with the mass public because the government knew about this prior to what's been going on lately in the news and information that's being released. And this goes into my guest for tonight. Everyone, I have a very, very exciting guest that I'm getting ready to bring on. Are you guys ready? I'm bringing on Mr. Jim Andre. Hey, Jim. How you doing?
Yeah, how's it going there, Dedrick? Thanks for having me on here. It's an honor.
Hey, thank you for being on. I appreciate you, brother.
My pleasure.
All right, so we have Jim here, and as you know, tonight's topic, one of the topics we were talking about was hostile, 4 potential hostile alien races that might exist out there that could be a threat to humanity and Earth. And Jim, I want you to introduce yourself, and maybe you could enlighten us on this topic.
All right. I'm an alien abductee. Was abducted in the late fall of 2012. For those who are not familiar with my story, I'm a retired Massachusetts constable and motor coach bus driver. And I distinctly remember that it was on a Wednesday night. And I was sitting in front of my computer looking at the lower right-hand corner of the computer monitor to know what time it was because I had to get up early to drive bus the next morning. All of a sudden, I went out and I came back to, and, I'm like in a daze trying to figure out, where I'm at. And I'm looking around the room there, still sitting in front of the computer, and I glance over to the alarm clock and it said 2:57 a.m. So I'm trying to gather my thoughts, and all of a sudden I feel an intense burning sensation on my right forearm. And I know this sounds bizarre. I mean, it would be hard for me to swallow if I didn't experience what I experienced. There's an alien tattoo on my right forearm that depicts an alien gray. And this is the tattoo here.
Mm, wow.
Now, of course, when this happened, I was beside myself. And, I kept it quiet. I held it inside me for about a year and a half, 2 years. And then I decided to come out with it. I went public on a local cable TV news channel in my area up there in Massachusetts to explain my experience. And coincidentally, the host of the show was an attorney for a law firm that I did hundreds of serves for as being a constable. So technically, when I came out with it at that time, I was putting my reputation on the line. But from then on, it's just been moving forward about my experience. And, I'm not ashamed to say what I've experienced. I mean, I know there's people that are not going to believe it. If I was on the other side of the fence, I probably wouldn't believe it myself. But it's all very real.
Well, Jim, I believe your story should be told. Because, like I said, Congress had a meeting back in May where they talked about the UAPs, and you guys can go on Hoodoo Lounge TV to see that. Or they spoke about the crafts existing, the technology, and that they're not man-made. And what I believe as a UFO researcher, that the next wave of conversation is hearing stories from people like you that's been abducted. What was your experience like? What did you feel like? Care to share that?
Well, I mean, what I feel like, I don't know what to feel at the time. I mean, I was beside myself. I mean, I told my dad about it. Some family members who actually, of course, thought I was nuts. But I felt like, you know, I didn't know if there was actually something wrong with me, or that's something I had to rationalize within myself over a course of time before I felt comfortable doing what I'm doing now. So
So you definitely had interaction with the Greys.
Yes.
Did they give you a message?
Oh yeah, I get telepathic downloads. Some of the viewers are familiar with this. I've stated this before. I get information. Yes,
Okay.
it's not something that I initiate. It just
Right.
comes to me when it comes to me.
Like I said, so what is your thoughts about these four civilizations that they just sharing with us? Because my honest opinion, I believe there's more civilizations out there. But what are your thoughts for someone that's been abducted about these alien civilizations, and do you believe they're hot?
Well, the thing is, you can't believe everything that the news media tells you. That's my opinion. From the information that I've gathered, um, what the powers that be are going to be planning is false flag alien abduction. And what I mean by that is we have the technology today where we got the holograms. We can watch Michael Jackson on stage like he's actually really there when he isn't. Um, what they're going to have is holograms in the sky of UFO craft. And they're going to make it look like they're lethal. They'll be firing weapons when in reality, the weapons will actually be being fired by the military itself to put fear into the masses, to give the masses the idea that the extraterrestrials don't have our best interests in mind, which could be furthest from the truth.
Right, right. Now, for those of y'all that's tuning in, we have our special guest here, Jim Andre. Jim, you're on the money because, pardon me, because the United States military is already experimenting with hologram technology. I myself is a veteran of the United States Army, and I recall being at Fort Benning and hearing sergeants and lieutenants discuss of them using hologram technology out there during Desert Storm and other wars and stuff, where they'll project the image of a tank, and then the
Right,
enemy. And they love to do it at nighttime too. They said because they can see the flame, the fire of the the weapons and stuff. And they said
right,
they'll project the image of the tank, and it'll even show up on the radar, on the enemy radar, and the enemy will shoot at it. And when they see the weapons come from there, that lets them know the location of their enemy. So this hologram war, or hologram warfare, I should say, so to speak. Um, what do you think eventually is going to be the major goal, the outcome that they want to get from it?
well, like I said, for thousands of years, they've used the fear tactic through religion itself. So this is just another tactic to push the envelope, if you will.
Mm, right.
It's all about total control, and their ultimate agenda and goal is to eventually eliminate 95% of the world population.
Mm, right. Right. A war demic.
Right. Now, you remember Orwell's 1932, I believe it was, War of the Worlds.
That's right.
That was
War.
now that was just a radio broadcast,
People went
but
crazy.
it had a profound effect. So can you imagine what type of an effect this modern day technology would have?
Oh yeah. If you come outside and you look up in the sky and you see a mothership piercing through the sky, a giant mothership that takes up half majority of the sky. I mean, that would frighten the average human walking around.
Exactly, and not to mention the weapons that it'll appear that it's firing.
And and the casualties that will be lost. And this is interesting.
Right.
I I tell people, I said there's a reason why the Space Force was created.
That's
And,
right.
and it's in the early stages of it. It's already created. And like I said, they call them guardians. They already have the anthem and everything. But if you could generate fear in the public about a false alien attack,
Right.
that gives the public. It'll turn the public around when they say we need to support the Space Force more. We need to invest more money into this program, which eventually just leads them out to space to control another realm besides here on Earth.
Exactly.
And
Right.
you said 95% of population being wiped out. And if it's not exactly 95, it's going to be a large number, and the other portion is going to be probably most likely transported to Mars, while you will have Space Force as the space police monitoring these other planets where we'll be transported.
Right. Well, years ago, I believe it was President Eisenhower, or was it Roosevelt? One of them warned of the military-industrial complex, and that's exactly what we're going up against today.
Right. Right. Remember Reagan? Reagan stated in one of his speeches, how would humanity react and nations react if we found out we had a common enemy out in space?
Right.
We'll have to
Yeah.
unite.
In other words, he said we'd have to unite as a species against an alien threat.
Now,
So that
how
was kind of put. Now back then, even then, that's kind of putting like a hint into the mix.
right, dropping the Easter eggs.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
drop the Easter eggs. And this is interesting because we have to look at this because I pay attention to what the government say and what they don't say and what they say and what they really should be saying,
Right.
so to speak. Double speak kind of scenario.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, today it's all fake news. They only broadcast what they want you to hear.
right,
You know. Now, for an example of what I mean, the Tuskegee incident there with the syphilis,
the airmen, correct,
right? Now that was a government program. They purposely infected these black sharecroppers with the virus, syphilis virus, to do medical testing on them without their knowledge.
right,
Now that's factual. See, back then we got factual news. Okay, we had reporters that were real reporters that were dedicated to their trade. But today, everything is controlled. Today, if you say something about the coronavirus or
you're gonna get
the
banned.
pandemic, if I call it a plandemic, they'll take me off the air. See,
Yeah, yeah,
you
and
see what
God
I'm saying?
forbid you say the wrong political affiliation.
Now, how would that plandemic be any different than the Tuskegee incident?
Right, right, or leading up to the alien attack, a
Exactly.
possible alien attack.
Exactly.
All the stuff is tied in together, and it's interesting you say that because in 1997 I had an internship for the New York Times when news was still kind of real new. 1997, and I remember going upstairs, and I had an elder gentleman that was like training me on how to go about finding news and how to go about reporting it and getting newsworthy stuff to air. And he said, just go out, get real news, and be truthful to the people. That makes a
Right.
good reporter. Today's time, these reporters are told what you're going to go out and get. They tell you what
Right.
you're going to get and what you're going to report back to the people and how long you're going to be able to report in that stream.
Well, there are very few dedicated, I think, journalists out there that are dedicated today, but they're in a very hard position. Matter of fact, there was one that was just murdered recently for, coming out with stories against a politician there. I forget where that was. But yeah, there are some dedicated, but not many.
Right, right. Well, in terms of these four species, now you say you had contact with the Greys. What
Yes, the Zeta reticula. Yeah.
what are some of the other species you think that might possibly exist?
Well, you got the short grays, you got the tall grays, you got the Anunnaki. They got there's probably, I don't know, there's probably 60 plus species out there, different species.
You think any of the
You know,
humanoids are
and
among
I can't sit here and say that they all have our best interests in mind, but I believe the majority do.
right, right. Hence why some of these UAPs are being seen right now. They've been spotted over our nuclear power plants. Um, Maybe they've sending us a warning that we shouldn't be toying around with this type of
Well,
bomb.
what that tells me is that they're doing their dry runs with their technology
Mm,
in order to save man from man himself, because there's no doubt in my mind that man is on a path of self-annihilation. Um, but when them UFOs are seen over these military bases, which they've been seen worldwide, by the way. They cut the power to the nuclear weaponry, to the whole system.
Yes.
And it takes the military 24 hours to reboot the system back to firing status. So
Right.
that tells me they're doing their due diligence to protect us from ourselves. And I mean, there's other stuff I can say about the Georgia Guidestones. They were sabotaged. Yes, they were sabotaged. They were sabotaged by the Zeta Reticula purposely to send a message to the 1% or the powers that be to start messing around with that Hadron Collider, where they're smashing atoms, trying to discover the God particle.
And
Because
hey,
they don't know they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're playing with.
interesting. We have Vic. He stated they have bases underwater here on Earth, and Vic, you're absolutely correct, because think about this here. As you know, the Tic Tac object was seen a lot around the water and naval ships and stuff like that. And I know they're looking out there beyond in different galaxies and so forth, and looking for different communication life form, because China also extended their satellite technology to try to communicate with species abroad too. But right here on Earth, in our ocean, might be the strong possibility of alien bases.
Oh yeah, there are bases spread all over the world in the water. I mean, there's one location that I know of, which is called the Puerto Rico Trench. It's in the, I guess, mid-Atlantic somewhere, which is over 5 miles deep.
Mm. Now, for those that's tuning in, let's connect history with some science. Columbus himself has stated that when he was sailing over here, he saw objects and lights in the sky that he could not explain, that will raise up out the waters and shoot off in the heavens. And he'll see them descend from the heavens into the water too. And this is another reason
Right.
why they didn't want to release Columbus' diary, because his diary was it just wasn't telling about, the natives and who he encountered over here. But he also was telling about what other species or other life form or objects that was being seen at that time too. You know, so yeah, you said Puerto Rico, near Puerto Rico, most likely. Then he said about 5
Yeah, you
miles.
can Google Puerto Rico Trench. The depth of the ocean, Atlantic Ocean in that area is over 5 miles, which is very deep. I mean, a lot of pressure at that depth.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, 5 miles deep. Yeah, that's some serious pressure. Which once again explains that these Tic Tac objects, we have to question their technology, because if they could descend that deep into the water at those rapid speeds.
Well, yeah, from what I understand, what they do is they use some type of energetic field, which actually, in other words, the lower they go, the the uh, the pressure expands to the pressure coming in. So
Mhm.
basically, it's like a counteraction of the force, and that's how they're able to travel the speed. They can speed through the water. The water doesn't hold them back because they're in
Right.
like a bubble. They're in the best way I could explain it is
Anti-gravity.
an energetic bubble.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that, and you're actually right, Vic. I saw that the Russia had a fight with 9-foot aliens underwater. I saw that, and I also saw the report about the crafts flying over Russian nuclear power plant, and it turned off their system and active. Well, I also saw one where it said it triggered their missile system and could have started a World War III, and they were able to shut it down, fortunately, in due time. So yeah, like there might be some out there that's hostile, and there's some that want to help us. My question is that, and I'm quite sure a lot of the public is curious about this: is are there any humanoids amongst us? Any humanoid, and how can we trace them or track them? Are we the humanoids? Let's touch on
Well,
that.
I will tell you, we all have alien DNA.
Mm. So if we all have alien DNA, Do you think that the psychic abilities that we have and that we trigger or we find out by ourselves are these downloads, like I was talking about earlier, the higher levels of consciousness and enlightenment? Do you think that's us tapping into our alien DNA, supposedly?
Well, that's a possibility. That is a possibility. I believe we all have different gifts, but the key to initiate whatever gift that you want to utilize has got to be built on the foundation of belief. In other words, you have to believe that you can. If you're trying to do something or practice something that's out of the ordinary, and you got this little voice in the back of your head that says, "What am I doing this for? What am I stupid? This is never going to work. It never will." And I believe that's why the majority don't experience the pleasure of using the gifts that they are actually born with.
Yes, and it's a lot of negative manifestation. A lot of negative
Yes,
manifestation, that seed of doubt that just keep blossoming in our heads. And hey, Jonathan, and and that goes back into the downloads, meditating, cleansing your home,
right.
becoming balanced and whole with yourself, looking within and seeing the diamond or the superior spiritual being within inside. Uh, I could dig. I'm receptive to us having alien DNA because I do believe
Mhm.
that we're tied to something greater beyond our planet. I had a theory. This is
Right,
my
exactly.
and you can and I want you to enlighten me on what you think about this theory, Jim. I had a theory. I had this
Well,
theory.
yeah, I mean, we're a part of the universe.
Right.
You know what we are. Everything in existence is the universe experiencing itself in a gazillion different ways all at one time.
I absolutely agree. I had a theory that we was brought down here by aliens and they brought us down here and they come back to visit and see how we evolve as a species. And
Exactly.
I
They
had
monitor our progress. Yeah,
right
that's
over time.
that's they monitor our progress from a behind the scenes approach because they realize that we're free will individuals, free will spirits. They don't want to intervene and force us to do anything against our will. But the way the world is heading today, there is going to come a point where they will intervene, in order to save man from man himself.
Hence why you will see on the Egyptian pyramids aircraft that resemble airplanes or a jet engine. You see it on the Aboriginals in Australia and other indigenous civilizations on their writings and stuff. They even found on the Taino caves in Dominican Republic drawings that look like spacecraft objects. And we've been visited for a long time by our ancestors.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah, and I think a lot of that started, in recent, I say recent history. Well, I mean like maybe a couple of thousand years ago with Egypt, with the Anunnaki. Um, and I believe the Anunnaki had to, I can give you a quick rundown of what I believe, what my theory is. I believe that we are a product and result of an experiment performed by a higher intelligence of life, which are the extraterrestrials themselves.
mm,
Our DNA and the DNA of the great ape species is 98 to 99% identical. So through you know, genetic manipulation and artificial insemination between the great ape species and the alien species, they created man. Now, once they created man, like we were speaking about before, they monitored him from a distance to see his progress. Now, one thing that was slow was his intelligence in advancing. So that's when they built the island of Atlantis
mm,
that
right.
served as a learning facility to jumpstart man's knowledge. Now that's how they built the pyramids with the help of the aliens. Okay, so at that time they taught man, engineering, mathematics, calculations, astronomy, the whole works. They built the pyramids. Today we have architects and scientists that can't duplicate the precision that the pyramids were built with all the technology we have today.
That's right.
So the question is, How could they have possibly done it back then? And not only that, pyramids are found on all four corners of the world.
That's
Back
right.
then, there was no way of communication like we have today. So something from somewhere had to help us out with that. We didn't come up with that on our own.
To come up with the visualization of it too. Like you look at the Mayans and Incas, they had pyramids.
Now when you get all these depictions of these aircrafts and all that stuff, where would they have gotten that thousands of years ago? Unless
Right.
they actually seen one.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Right, and so graphic and detailed, by the way, Paranormal Family. If you go look up aircraft on pyramid walls, Google that. You go like, what? Like, yeah, this is found in South
It's
America.
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
With like jet engines on it. Where did this come from?
Right.
Where did this
Exactly.
come? You know? Heck,
And they even have depictions of astronauts in spacesuits.
exactly. And if you want to get biblical for our fellow Christians out there, the book of Ezekiel, the spinning wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Spinning wheel.
That
So
describes an alien craft, right?
that's right. So I mean that it could be them coming down, check out Bermuda Triangle caused by underwater alien colonies. You know, I thought about that, and I also thought about that about we're going to touch on that. Great, Jonathan. Great question. Jonathan asked, "Is the Bermuda Triangle created by alien colony?" And before we jump into that, look, because that's going to lead into that. Look in the background at my at the pyramids in the background.
Well, I love that background.
Thank you.
I
Thank
love that background.
you. A lot of people don't realize those are actually communication portals. They channel energy from the tips of them out in
Exactly.
space, and they were created on. If you look at it on Google, they're created on certain axes that create certain energy. So check it out. But this goes back into Atlantis. Atlantis, they say had lasers, which could have
Right.
possibly been
Exactly.
demise. They actually had
And
lasers.
and they're lined up perfectly with the stars astronomically.
That's right. And on the grid, perpendiculars and all that. And now it goes right back into what Jonathan asked, the Bermuda Triangle has an underbase colony, alien colony. Who knows? Like, because aircraft disappear without a trace, without any fragments or anything. Like, we all seen planes go down the ocean and you see like a door or something floating somewhere. But this here is like something disintegrates them where there's nothing. So, what if there might be advanced alien technology in the Bermuda Triangle?
Yeah, I believe there is. I believe there is because there's a lot of paranormal phenomenon that goes on in that area.
A whole lot. I remember seeing a
Oh yeah.
documentary where the guy had a barge and the rope froze in midair, but it wasn't attached to anything. And he said it was cold as ice when he was cutting through there. Look at when airplanes travel, you have the magnets go crazy on the compass.
Right. Yeah, they lose all their compasses and gauges, and it's like they're flying blind.
Flying blind. Yeah, yeah. And in I think Bermuda Triangle is actually the deepest part of the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, and also all the ships that went missing.
Right.
And not only that, different sightings of ghost ships in that area.
Reappearing. And these sightings, once again, Paranormal Family, was also dated back in Columbus' diary. And other sailors have seen craft that from certain areas that shouldn't be sailing reappearing.
Right.
Ghost ships reappearing. They're called dead zones. Yeah, I wouldn't want to fly over there. Matter of fact, I don't think too many planes do fly over those regions and stuff. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like a recording from the past. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like a replay. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Jim, I want to thank you for coming on tonight's show. You guys give Jim a round of applause. There's going to be more Jim to come. We're going to have Jim on here again. Jim, I'd love to have you back on here. And let's
thank you.
next time.
I'd be honored to come back, and I thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right, guys. Jim, we'll see you again later, Jim.
All right. See you on the next one.
All right.
Bye.
All right, guys. Hey, you know what? It's time for a commercial break, everyone. You know, That was awesome, Jim. Wow. But look, we got a commercial break. You guys stay tuned. I want to share something amazing with you for Hoodoo Lounge TV that is coming and already has arrived. Just watch.